on this edition of the Self-Publishing Show.
Because I know a lot of us say we just don't have enough time. Whether we're self-published, indie, whatever the case may be, I think most people in modern times don't feel like they have enough time. And I really believe that comes down to organization.
Publishing is changing. No more gatekeepers. No more barriers. No one standing between you and your readers. Do you want to make a living from your writing? Join indie bestseller Mark Dawson and first-time author James Blatch as they shine a light on the secrets of self-publishing success. This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Yes, here we are at the Self-Publishing Show. My name is James Blatch.
My name is Mark Dawson. My name is Michael Caine.
My name is Michael Caine. You have to do that in the accent, in the impression.
I can't do that. I'll leave that to you. You're the one who does the accents.
Are there parlour games in the Dawson household over Christmas?
Parlour games. That's one way to describe it. There'll be a lot of hide and seek. Daddy goes and hides somewhere with a drink, and people try and seek him.
To do the washing up. Yes, okay, good. Well, welcome to 2019 and an exciting new year in the world of indie authoring. We're recording these in advance around Christmas time. We're always honest with you, our listeners, about this, although I am changing the colour of the background for each episode. I hope people are appreciating that. We are going to be talking about time management in today's episode. And as we speak, this episode is going out on the 4th of July, and I think you will be currently at that point in Bali.
The 4th of July?
No, the 4th of January. Begins with a J. 4th of January.
Yes, it does. Yes, I will. Yes, I'll be about midway through Bali. So I would have spoken by this stage, and we'll probably be reclining on a lounger as this goes out. And I'll be thinking of you, James, in chilly Gold Chester whilst I'm sipping a pina colada. And,
holding the fort. Well, I should be managing my time, which I have to say for you and I both is a very important issue for everyone to do with SPF. And I think for a lot of authors, particularly those with full-time jobs. So that's what this episode is all about. There is a handout to be had for this episode. It's a scheduler. And I'm going to give you the URL now, which is Self-Publishing Show. What was that noise? What was that?
Someone cheering the handout.
Hey, yeah. Good. It is exciting. Selfpublishingshow.com/schedule. Or if you're in America, schedule. Or if you're in Britain but don't know, schedule, because that's what people say when they don't know in Britain. But it is pronounced schedule in Britain. But it's selfpublishingshow.com/schedule. Or schedule.
I'm completely lost now.
It's just that one word, schedule. And you'll get the free schedule sketcher from Audrey Hughey. Right, let's hear from Audrey.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Audrey. Hello.
Hi.
We've just been having a quick chat about the weather because everyone listening to the podcast now knows that I cannot start a conversation with anybody without discussing the weather. It's an ingrained British thing, although I imagine for some people in America, is because America, you've got every weather you could possibly imagine. You know, some people, it barely gets cold all year. Other people die in the north of America every winter because it gets so cold. And you're somewhere in the middle, are you, I guess? West Virginia?
Yes, I'm in West Virginia. We do have more of a northern climate, but we're still pretty close to DC. So we've gotten a lot of rain as an after effect of the recent hurricanes.
Oh, yes.
It's just rain and it's cold.
So we don't really get proper weather. We don't get hurricanes or anything like that, but we like to discuss it anyway. Okay, look, let's discuss writing. Let's discuss an approach to writing, methodical planning, because this is what you're bringing to the party, right, Audrey? And
yes, absolutely.
If people are watching on YouTube, they can see that I have in my hand the ultimate authorship planner, authored by you, Audrey, and it's got a fantastic introduction. And then through this book is the organizational template, I guess, is what you've offered people here to. Yes. Well, you tell me in your own words what this does for an author.
What this does is it gives you systems in an organized way so you don't have to wonder what to do next or how to get started with the next thing or what am I supposed to be doing day to day to take myself to the next level of my authorship. And it's not just about the writing, it's not just about developing our marketing systems, but the editing, every aspect of your writing and your life, this planner helps you develop systems for so you can stay on track and actually achieve goals.
And what inspired you to develop this? Was this your own experience of what you knew would help you?
Yes, and well, I have a small private group called the Author Transformation Alliance, and in there, I was actually last year I created the 2018 Authors Journal, which was the predecessor to the Ultimate Authorship Planner, which is undated, and of course we'll have the 2019 Authors Journal, which is just a dated version of the Ultimate Authorship Planner. But I was looking forward to getting this planner from this big entrepreneur, and because she had her own, but after shipping and the conversion rate, it would have cost me like $100. So I was like, oh, when it's in my budget, I'll get it. But they all sold out before I had the money. So what I did instead was I said, you know what? I kept going to like the office stores and looking at planners, and I said, nothing really fits. So you know what I'm going to do? I do all these different worksheets and everything for the Alliance. I do it all in Pages on, thankfully, my husband's MacBook. I could, steal that. And so I was doing all these beautiful workbooks and things. And I said, well, why can't I do a planner of my own? And so I worked with my authors in the Author Transformation Alliance, and I said, how many manuscripts do you work on a year? How many manuscript pages should we have? Hey, I've got an idea for this. Do you guys like it, or do you hate it? Is it just me, or would this be helpful? And a lot of stuff I was presenting was really ringing true for people, and they were getting really, really excited. So, I had a lot of input, about 30 different authors, all ranges, both traditionally and self-published, and some hybrid. And so it was almost like this community project of authors in saying, what would we have in our planner? And I said, don't worry, guys, I've got this. And because I did it in Pages, I didn't need a formatter because I had already formatted the book for print in Pages. So it was a really exciting, fun, challenging project that was born out of necessity, because I looked at the stuff that was out there and I didn't feel like it helped us build systems. And a lot of the writing journals or planners, and I know journal brings up this connotation of like blank lined pages, and that's definitely not what this is. So, I was like, nothing is really hitting the mark, so we're just going to make our own. I'm going to, take this project head on. If I'm the only one who buys it, then that's great. But I really hope that it helps other people too. And it has, so win.
Yeah, so
so that's where it was a project of necessity and inspiration.
And you've when did you first publish it? When did you first get it out into authors' hands?
December of 2017. So I was halfway through my thriller for NaNoWriMo in 2017, and I said, you know what? This has got to happen. So I totally switched gears, and in 14 days, I had the predecessor to that, which was only 20 pages shorter.
Okay.
So.
Okay. So you've this has seen action. It's been on the front line. And what's the feedback you've got from people?
Yes. People have really, you're always nervous about what people are going to say, but I have been just blown away by the feedback. They're saying, people are saying that it's helped them actually get on track. It's helped them finish projects. It's helped them get re-energized about their writing life, because sometimes writing can be so overwhelming. It's not just putting down words on pages. A lot of times it's figuring out, well, how am I going to, get that visibility I need so I can reach readers? Or how am I going to find an editor? Or, I've got all these ideas, but, what am I going to do with them? And this helps you say, well, this can be my priority. This is my first priority or second priority. And I think another thing that prompted this project was the fact that I had so many like notebooks and little planners and hardcover journals that are like an addiction. And I kept losing all these story ideas or outlines I was doing. Like, maybe my husband's a musician, so I'll go watch him at the bar and I'll be writing. So either writing a story or outlining a new one. And I would lose them, and I won't find them till months later. And I've got this whole mountain of, if you put them all together, there would be like a mountain of notebooks, half-filled notebooks and journals. And I said, this isn't acceptable. I want my expenses in the same place in a different section, but I want it all together. So I know I can just flip open and say, hey, what was that story idea? Or, hey, I need a nano project. I've got a whole book that, my story ideas are right there. And because the planner is always on my desk, I never have to go searching into whatever boxes or nooks and crannies for my story ideas or for where I keep my expenses, and that's been the kind of feedback that I'm getting as I finally have everything I need in one place, so that has been very, you get this really fuzzy inside feel like I'm helping people. So.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ideas one is a very good example of this, because ideas do come to you at various places, times, and not always convenient. In fact, usually not convenient to start writing. And I'm definitely guilty of having ideas in my head a lot, not finding a place to put them down, or opening a Word document and typing them out, but then that just gets lost in your documents folder.
Yes.
So here's somewhere where they go. Now, I can see that, and I can see the practical advantage of it. What I'm interested in also is whether you've it looks to me like you've created steps here that authors perhaps don't always think about going through, but should go through, sort of defining goals and so on, that maybe you're bringing something to them rather than simply giving them a convenient place to jot down the way they work. You're creating a better way of working. Is that your aim here?
Yes, absolutely. Helping build better, more efficient systems. And I like to think that I'm helping bring more entrepreneurial business skills into the writing community. That's what I want to share. That's where, I've always been a writer, but I was doing social media for entrepreneurs and small businesses. And I was like, why am I not doing this for my own community? So I wanted to bring those skills and that business mindset. So there's monthly reviews, there are quarterly reviews, there's in the very beginning of the planner, there's my vision. And that is all about really defining what you want out of writing. Because when I work with people, the biggest thing that comes up is they haven't really defined exactly what they want. They have an idea of where they want to go, but if we aren't crystal clear on that, how are we supposed to develop a real plan with actionable steps in order to get there?
Yeah, and I think that is probably the most valuable part of this, is defining those steps and being able to trace them and keep yourself accountable, right? You can't. That's the other thing that is kind of the elephant in the room here, is that authors work alone a lot of the time, and I think what you've done here is to give you a kind of way of being your own business partner.
Absolutely. I wanted it to be like you have a business coach right there with you, without the thousands of dollars of cost, or and you don't have to get on their calendar. Your coach is right there for you in the planner, because all of these things in that My Vision section, after you get clear on your goals, and of course it's not setting a million goals, it's your top 3 things that are most important to you, or if it's one thing, that's great, because then you can be really focused. But anyway, we map those out. Once we have defined the steps that it's going to take to get there, we plug those into what month that has to happen. Right. And then, of course, we can plug that into the yearly overview. Some people really wanted that. That's why I added that. But the yearly overview, or plug it into each month. That's what I do. I get ahead. I take all my goals and my target completion dates or tasks or milestone dates, and I plug all that in ahead of time. So when I open up a new month, in my monthly overview, I already have, or in my monthly priorities, I already have plugged in from my vision section what needs to happen that month. So, which, I find really reassuring. I think it's, busy, fast-paced world, especially once I moved to the DC area and I was commuting there. I always felt rushed. I felt anxious. I had developed a lot of anxiety over getting everything done all the time and trying to be everything to everyone. And I would go to bed and stay up worrying about what had to be done the next day. And now every night, it's my ritual. Every night before I go to bed, I go to my workspace, I look at my planner, and I know exactly what I'm doing. So I go to bed and I conk out.
Well, that's worth a lot. Sleeping soundly and not having those.
It is.
Those, what I think is very familiar to a lot of us, is lying awake, going to bed worrying about it, and waking up in the morning worrying about it.
Absolutely.
And bringing that level of organisation. Now, you referred to opening the planner. I've got a paper version in front of me. Is there a sort of online version of this, or way, because a lot of us do work online now more than on paper, although I can also see the lovely advantage of writing things down and then crossing them out when they're done. But
Yes, and I love that. But I know I had actually a couple of requests to have a digital version. And with PDF now, even the free version, you can fill in any document. So that is really helpful. So yes, I do have a digital version, PDF, so you can fill it out with your regular PDF program on Etsy. So it's available there in digital form.
Excellent. I mean, it's so detailed. You know, you can flick through. I think I'll just show it again if people are watching on YouTube. It's how big this is. This is not that big. Of let's plan your writing year. This is step by step. Your priorities for this week. And as you say, a lot of this will be pre-filled in because you've set your priorities in advance and you're working through them. Of course, there's got to be some flexibility as well, right? This document does allow you to think, well, that was a priority in January, but I've now crossed that off. It's not going to be a priority as we go into summer.
Exactly. Every month and especially every quarter, we focus on how have your goals changed? That is a question in the quarterly review. Have your goals from the beginning of the year changed? And if so, how have they changed? And how are you planning ahead to, adapt to those evolving goals? Our goals do not stay the same. Anything can happen in life and change our goals. I had to triple up on graduate classes, so my goals had to change. So, right. For example, we have so many different things can happen. Whether we have to take care of a family member or who knows, there's so many things, and our goals are going to evolve and our priorities are going to change. But that is definitely, I think, one advantage of this planner is that it's not just saying, okay, you set this goal, you got to stick to it. No, it's saying, how have things changed? Have your challenges changed? Have your priorities or your desires changed, over this past quarter or even every month? What challenges are you facing and how can we adapt to them? How can we overcome them? And, what are your goals? It gives you every month a chance to, reset those goals or readjust them.
Who did you have in your mind when you wrote? I mean, you had your group and you had yourself in your mind. Is this an author who's looking to produce more?
This is any author who feels like they need more time, because I know a lot of us say we just don't have enough time. Whether we're self-published, indie, whatever the case may be, I think most people in modern times don't feel like they have enough time. And I really believe that comes down to organization. And something I can, provide is I actually have a schedule sketcher. And this is something very simple. It's, a little freebie I can provide if you guys want to post it with the podcast. But it's just, the days, the times, and if I sketch out like what I'm going to do each day, and it's different from the planner because in the planner I post my appointments and I kind of think about what I want to do. But if I want to sketch out how am I going to maximize my time and really focus on my priorities, that helps immensely just to say, okay, my top 3 things are writing, taking care of the kids, and doing most people work a full-time job, maybe sometimes people do, but how am I going to fit in? Okay, so I get the necessities in. We could talk about our hierarchies of need, right? But once we've got those plugged into the schedule sketcher or whatever, then we can start filling in where can I make the most of my time. Because if you ask most people, they spend a lot of time scrolling social media, they spend a lot of time embroiled in feuds on Twitter or just like looking at the news, because that is a never ending trail of clickbait, right? Yeah. So we're wasting a lot of time, but then we feel at a loss for time. And I think organization, just having an idea and really being clear every day about what's really most important to me, what do I want to accomplish? For me, it's been a question of, and of course I figured this out in the military, but of if I died tomorrow, would they be able to say that I had been doing what I loved or had been, at least pursuing my dreams? Or, I didn't want to be that person kind of, as I had before, kind of felt like I was stuck or stagnating or spinning my wheels, never completing a writing project or never submitting poetry for contests or what have you. I didn't want, I had to come to have that come to Jesus moment where it was, okay, we either got to get serious, stop spending time doing whatever, and actually get this done. And having that organization is committing to yourself that this writing project is important to you. Yes, we have all this other stuff going on in life, but when we sit down and write today at 9 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to spend 2 hours writing. I'm going to turn off my social media. I'm going to chunk my time, and I'm going to say, there's nothing more important for me at this time than working on this project.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you could do. I mean, even if you wrote 300 words a day for 365 days, you've written well more than a manuscript, an average manuscript.
Yeah.
So, but why don't we do that? And a lot of times it does come down to, again, life gets in the way, but if we are committed to it, we would not be spending so much time just scrolling social media. I'm not talking about doing the marketing or, we do need time to socialize, but a lot of time people lose hours on social media. So that's, I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I think we're all familiar with that. We're all familiar with the, sitting down there and looking at one YouTube video and suddenly 2 hours later and you've watched trash. You haven't watched, it's not like you've really improved yourself for those 2 hours.
Exactly.
And do you know what? There's nothing wrong with doing that, but it's quite a good idea to have that as part of your plan. Think, tonight what am I doing on Tuesday night? I'm doing nothing on Tuesday night, because that's important for me as well to have those times as well. Okay. You've mentioned indie authors and self-publishing authors. This presumably would work equally for a traditionally published author.
Absolutely. And one of the revisions I'm actually in the process of uploading now, it will be available by the time this airs, and it'll be available in November, but is adding a section for queries and agents. So you can keep track of the queries you've sent, the agency you've sent your queries to, and things like that for traditionally. And I think that's another point of flexibility about this planner, is it gives you a lot. It's not really trying to be in everything, because we're not saying, oh, here's how to do a query or anything like that. But, giving that space so it can fill those needs of an author. Not every indie author says, I'm just going to be self-published. Some people do want to do both. For my academic publishing, well, I want to be traditionally published for, historical academics. So, that's, something that applies to, I think, several people, and some people just want to be traditionally published. And I didn't call it the ultimate indie planner, indie author planner, but it's definitely something that I wanted to be flexible. You don't have to use every section, but you can use those sections there that do apply to your situation. So even people I've had buy it who are working on their first manuscript say it has improved their productivity. It's helped them get clear and focused on actually finishing that manuscript, and thinking ahead about editors and covers and keeping track of expenses. Again, that's another place where I find people don't really pay a lot of attention, at least in the beginning, is a lot of people want to ask them, okay, so what were your expenses for your authorship this month? And they're like, I don't want to talk about that. And, we want to avoid it because sometimes that's scary, but, we really do need to be clear on that. We need to treat it like a business. And in a business, we cannot avoid our expenses. No. If we wanted to make money like a business, we got to treat it like a business, right?
Yeah. So. Now, you touched on something there, which I think is important to mention, is that this is not a how-to guide in that sense, is it? In fact, it must have been quite difficult for you to resist that in some places. This is a planning document. This sets out your structure to your life and your working life and your organization. And then when you come to do the specific things like outlining your new book, you can go off to all the people who teach that and spend time doing that. And then when you've done your outline, you come back to your planner as part of that process and mark it on. And you mentioned the other example of being, what was it you just mentioned? That I can't remember. But anyway, you mentioned another part of the process that you don't take, the query letters, that's it.
Yes.
I'm getting old. This is not how to. This is the organization that goes around that, which actually not a lot of people are doing. So a lot of people who produce stuff in the growing, tremendously growing indie author world is how to guides. But this is organizational.
Exactly. I feel like there's so many good people out there putting out great information. I didn't want to overstep any bounds. I was actually going to ask you guys, but I do have in the marketing section or Facebook ads, write down places where you can learn about these things that you need to learn about. And, I put, for example, the ATA or Udemy or whatever, but, I could even put, self-publishing formula there. That'd be a great place. There's so many people out there teaching really great, solid information. I want to bring that organization is what I really feel we're lacking, and a lot of people need the most help on. But yeah, so there's books out there, there's courses, there's so much there. I wanted to bring that organization. So yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And do you think, you say there's sort of PDF versions of this and online, so you can fill these in online. Yeah. Do you think ultimately there might be a kind of computer-based system built around this? Is that in your mind at all?
Yes, I do. I do have, and I would like to do an app. So right now I am finishing up my grad school program. So after that, I'm actually going to pursue creating an app. So okay. So very exciting. But yes, this will be turned into something that we can do digitally, something that we can include reminders, time reminders and things like that. So I do have big plans for that. Software, I actually started coding in high school. So I went to a technologies charter school. And so my language was a programming language.
Okay.
So that was fun. But anyway, so yes, absolutely. At some point, probably next year, that's what we're gonna, that's what I'm looking forward to.
It seems like the next logical step, although I think it would also be quite involved. But you probably know that.
Yes, absolutely.
Because it's there's a lot of facets to this. Yeah. Good. Let's talk a little bit about you. I normally ask this at the beginning, actually, as to what you're writing, what your background is, and so on. So where are you with your writing career, Audrey?
Well, I've been included in anthologies. I've been writing since I was a little girl. Of course, we never feel like our writing is good enough. I am struggling with a thriller manuscript that I one day wake up and say, I can't wait to share the story with the world. The next day I wake up and say, it sucks. Mm-hmm. I need to scrap it. Mm-hmm. But I write a little bit of everything. It's just been right now I'm really focused on my academic career. From a young age, I knew that I was going to join the military, and I wanted to be Lara Croft. So, so I've got children, so I can't really be a full-fledged archaeologist or anything yet. But I, do have ambitions one day to apply to Stanford's doctoral program for Middle Eastern Cultural Studies, because if they accept you, they pay for it, right? They pay for your summers overseas and studying, but that I do want to be published. I'm actually working on getting my first academic publishing credit right now on a volunteer project that is collecting English translations of ancient papyri. So, there's, but I know that once I'm really excited that I started my grad studies in December of 2017, actually when I published that. So, okay. And I will be starting my capstone thesis this December.
Wow.
So I have really fast-tracked this.
This is your post-military career, moving into academia.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I did some defense contracting, and I was doing a lot of writing then when I could. But again, it was like 30 hours of commute a week. So it was really insane, and it was just killing me. So, and my husband's always like, "Why don't I just stay home and write?" And I'm like, "How did I get the most supportive husband like ever?"
Yeah,
so,
that is nice. Well, we've visited people who live within 2 hours of DC, and both couples work in DC. And yes. I think we think a lot of people commute into London, but DC seems to have this massive catchment area. I mean, everyone works for the federal government there, massive catchment area driving, and that is a lot of wasted time, isn't it? So you've I suppose dictation might be a way forward, but then
I was doing that. Well, okay. I was trying dictation; it wasn't working. Maybe I have like a weird Midwestern accent, but it was. Did
it not understand you?
Record it. It did not understand me, and like my T's sound like D's. I lived in Germany for a while, so they would always say you're not saying your T's hard enough, and but it was definitely one of those things where having 30 hours a week in the car made me think about what I really wanted out of life, and it was really a big spark to this project. It was early on. Putting up sheets on my fridge near my workspace and saying, what do you really want out of life? Do you want to scroll Facebook, or do you want to get these manuscripts finished? Do you want to scroll Facebook, or do you want to have to be forced to commute to DC, to pay the bills to go to work, to pay the bills to go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of life choices there. And, it was definitely very heavy. So I decided to kind of return to the writing community, and I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad to be involved in everything and getting back to my writing. And of course, people say I'm like an overachiever. I'm really ambitious. I have 2 little kids, a household to take care of. I run the ATA, run free group, Sprints and Spirits, where we're constantly doing challenges and things like that to try to help people write. And of course, so I have my own business, and then I'm doing mostly double time grad school, and then this term triple classes grad school. And so I'm always like a little overloaded, but if I didn't have my planner, I would not be able to juggle all of this stuff for sure. And so everybody's like, well, what are you going to do? What is Audrey going to do when she finally finishes her graduate degree? I was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to finish 5 manuscripts next year. So
there's not going to be a lot of time spare suddenly at arriving. But as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, right? So that's the best driver. And do you think your military background has contributed to this this prowess with organisation and planning?
Absolutely. We had to go through different reviews and evaluation. I was enlisted, and at every level, you have to go through performance reviews and evaluations. And one thing they would ask you, one thing we had to do is say, what are we doing to improve ourselves? Not just, we wouldn't just look at our military performance, but what is it that you want? And I had this great luck of getting an amazing NCO for my first sergeant. And he really pushed me to say, well, what do you want to do after this? What do you want to do next? What are your interests? We need to make sure that you're improving yourself. And so I hadn't planned on it, but I started taking classes, and the military pays for it, so why not? But a lot of people don't, because they don't have that person to push them. And I had someone who pushed me and said, nope, you need to start working on your education. And actually, one of my stories that I can't wait to get released next year is a story that I started when I was stationed in Germany in an English class that my NCO had, pushed me to pursue. And having that structure of, every month saying, here's how you're performing, here's where you need to improve, here's 3 things you're doing really great at. And that's why I have in that month review, what are your successes? Because we really do need to highlight those small successes, because if we're always focused on the challenges, it's really hard to feel like we're making any progress, right?
Yeah.
But it was really helpful to have that every month saying, are you actually working towards making, whatever life you want? In different words, of course, but it was really eye-opening to have that kind of structure. And I think I'm so much better for it.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine not having joined the military and have had that life.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing as well. My daughter's doing the sort of cadet thing at school and is suddenly starting to talk about, out of nowhere really, an interest in the Army or Air Force. And I come from a military family, but I've seen how it shapes people and sets you up for the whole rest of your life. Even if you just do that 8 years at the beginning or whatever. I think they even do 4-year commissions in the UK. And then you can be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, but you get that grounding of getting up in the morning, organising yourself and getting stuff done. And it's great for that.
Absolutely.
So the one thing this does have, this manuscript, it doesn't teach you how to do things, but it does inspire you. So every chapter has inspirational quotes through it, which are great, and I've been devouring those as I've been going through it. You better you better tell us where people can find this. In fact, shall we do, because you said you've got the schedule sketcher, which you're happy to give out. Yeah. So what we could do, we could set up a landing page for people to grab that. selfpublishingformula.com/scheduler, and I'll set that page up, and then people will get an email back that will have the schedule sketcher, which is a freebie from you to give out, and also a link to how much does this cost and how do people get it?
There are a couple options, because the original was actually published through CreateSpace. So they only do perfect bound. But one of the biggest critical feedback I got from reviewers was they wanted a coil bound edition. I actually had some of my people who are, really, really close with me, are my lifers. And they actually cut out page by page so they could 3-hole punch it and put it in a binder. So I was like, don't worry, I'll figure out the publisher to get the coil bound. And so the coil bounds are available from Lulu, but they do have a $10 increased manufacturing costs. So it's like $10 more, just get a coil bound. Otherwise, so there's on Amazon, it's $29.99. On Lulu, it's $39.95. But they always have discounts, 10 or 15, sometimes 20%.
Okay, well, I think the coil band's what I've got here, and that's definitely opens flat, so you can write on it. I can imagine with a what did you call it, perfect bound? I don't know all the technical expressions for books, but that is going to be that thing where it's curved up in the corner, you're trying to write on it. So.
I was really worried about that when I got it, but I use my perfect bound every day.
Okay.
Amazon's binding is really strong, but I don't have a curve problem, that curving problem. It's still like flexible enough. It's really weird, but it works really well. And I have people who love it. And when the Undated came out, they bought the perfect bound over the coil bound just because they were like, I already have a perfect bound, and they loved it. So. Okay.
Well, look, we'll include a couple of those links in the email. So remind people again, it's selfpublishingformula.com/scheduler. Scheduler, as you say in America, and scheduler, as we say in the UK, except half of the population in the UK now say scheduler because we watch American TV. I know, it's a bugbear of mine, but it's I'm going to have to let it go because I'll have to let all this stuff go. But, $30 for organising your life. And being more productive and getting more stuff done and either achieving the goals you set out or proactively modifying those goals. I think it's really important to understand that. It's not just bearing it in the back of your mind thinking, I did set out to do that, I haven't done that. That's okay to set out to do something and not do it. But as long as it's a kind of structure to it and there's a reason why you're not doing it. And if you go through that process and you think, actually, I do need to do it, then it comes back onto the table. But that's what this does, I guess. It helps you focus that.
Absolutely. Every month, it's like having your own personal coach at your workspace saying, okay, if you didn't get this done, why not? And it's not saying that in a mean kind of way, an accountability kind of way. And I think throughout it, I do encourage forgiveness, self-forgiveness. You don't have to be everything to everyone, but yes, so that flexibility, and it's like having a coach right by your side.
Yeah, great. Well, Audrey, it's been inspirational and organisational. Thank you very much indeed for coming onto the podcast. I hope you've enjoyed your chat with us.
Yes, it's been wonderful to speak with you.
Great, good. And one more time, that's selfpublishingformula.com/scheduler or scheduler, spelt the same. And you can get the details on that. So, Audrey, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much, James.
This is the Self-Publishing Show. There's never been a better time to be a writer.
Do you have particular time management tricks when we're talking about sort of plotting the year? You seem to go from one book to another quite quickly. Did you have a plan for 2018 or did things just evolve?
No, I don't plan like that. I'm very fluid and spontaneous. So that's a strength and a weakness. I'm very flexible, so that's a good thing. But on the other hand, I also quite like a little bit of structure. And I've got some ideas for 2019 that will involve upping my production significantly. And I am aware that there are going to be a lot of balls in the air that I could very easily drop. So not so much time planning, more kind of just keeping me on the straight and narrow. So even thinking about maybe hiring someone to work full time to basically tell me what to do. So yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, I mean, time management is very important. If it enables you to be more productive and also maintain sanity, and that can't be underestimated.
Yeah, and if you don't earn 7 figures a year and can't afford to take somebody on, there's that handout which I was talking about earlier, which is selfpublishingshow.com/schedule. I'll use the American pronunciation for that. So this is very much about making sure that you've got your production schedule from beginning to end plotted out, so you're not going to take on too much at any point of the year. And it's, I think, very useful, particularly, as I say, people who do currently have a 9-to-5 job, even if the long term is to move away from that. This is part of getting there. Good. Well, that's it. Our first show is a wrap from 2019. Mark, you are in Bali as we record this. Are you going to do some Facebook Lives or something from Bali and so show off by the beach?
No, I don't think so. I'm going to be hopefully relaxing as this goes out. I shall be relaxing. I hope that's the plan. So, no, not too much work being done. I might do some reading. That'll be about as connected as I get, I think.
Good, excellent. Okay, well, look, thank you very much indeed, Mark. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and we will speak to you again next Friday. So, from the Self-Publishing Show, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Get show notes, the podcast archive, and free resources to boost your writing career at selfpublishingshow.com. Join our thriving Facebook group at selfpublishingshow.com/Facebook. Support the show at patreon.com/selfpublishing show. And join us next week for more help and inspiration so that you can make your mark as a successful indie author. Publishing is changing, so get your words into the world and join the revolution with the Self-Publishing Show.